Guys, evening. We're joined by Brendo, who'll be here in a sec, talk all things health, fitness, mental well-being, mental resilience. He's the big fella now. And his app, which we spoke about briefly last week. Here he is, he's coming now. Brendo.
I'm on. Great. How you doing, bro?
Good, big fella yourself.
I'm good, man. Hey, are they glasses or are they blue blockers?
They're blue blockers.
Okay, I didn't wear I do every single phone thing with my blue blockers on, and I went, this is the first time I'm not going to do it, and here we are. We could have been blue blocker brothers.
I think this is the second time I've done it, and I was starting to get mad headaches. So this is a new addition for me. They're only 2 weeks old, but they've taken away the headaches, and I'm all in. I'm all in for the blue blockers.
Yeah, man, I feel you that. I'm on digital all day, and so I like I said, every single time I have interviews or anything, it's blue blockers on. So I'm impressed, bro.
Thanks, mate. It's the MoMENtum boys and I have tried to make a little bit of a fashion statement with them. We're trying to look a little bit more sophisticated than we really are, but I think it's working at this stage.
Hey, that actually is really timely. I know that we're actually going to have a serious interview, but talking about looking sophisticated. So this is a new addition to my little podcast room, and this is a bookshelf just with books. So usually people can see it, but the trick is I've only put books on the edge. So when I do interviews, people are like, man, Brendo's hell smart. Hey.
That is genius. That is, mate, to be fair, if you look at a lot of those people that do the interviews, they do love having their little book cabinet behind them. So you've caught on. You've caught on nicely. Mate, there's one things I want. What was that?
Also, we got a couple of familiar faces in here. We got Dave Harvey. We got a few people from around Australia. This is cool.
We've had Dave on before. He's a Jedi. He's actually involved. He's actually in our program, mate. Great man. Great. Where do you guys cross paths from?
Well, funny enough, also speaking about things on the wall, we're both fellow F45 playoff champs.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. How do you go with that? Because your background's more CrossFit, isn't it? It's a fairly different style of training.
Yeah, so I've been in the industry for 17 years. I grew up, just typical bodybuilding, like a massive fan of bodybuilding back in the day. And I got into CrossFit, I think it must have been 7 years ago, saw, Rich Froning, and I was like, man, this is cool. So I started doing that. So CrossFit's my main style of training. I've actually lost my voice because I emceed a CrossFit comp over the weekend, so I'm a bit squeaky. It's because I've been on the mic all weekend. Except F45 came to Perth to do the playoffs for the first time, and I looked at who was competing, and I thought, I reckon I can put together a team to win this. And so I got a bunch of guys from around that were really top athletes, and then threw them in the mix, and we ended up winning the Perth F45 playoffs, and that's how it all came about and became a bit of a joke. Like, mate, not a joke, F45, it became a joke for us that we actually won the playoffs. So that's pretty much the story there.
There you go. Just very diverse in your training style, which I love. Mate, going to talk all things health and fitness for sure, but we might as well kick off with the new app. Firstly, congratulations on that. We spoke with Michaela last week, who had plenty to say about it. But for those that haven't heard last week's chat, give us the rundown on Fitify.
For sure. So Fitify, it's a dating app for people that are interested into health and fitness. And how it came about is, prior to this, I was most well known, or how people came across me was for being the creator of the platform Perth Fit Fam, which was the biggest city-based online community in Australia, and still nothing's been duplicated like it since. And so I had quite a big audience, and I was quite connected to them, very engaged with Q&As. And my wife's also from the fitness industry. That's how we met. And so I'd always get asked questions like, well, what's your advice for meeting other fit people, but not on Tinder and Bumble? And I didn't really think much of it. I'd always give kind of joking answers. Until one day in a Q&A, it was a very specific cry for help. And someone said, I need to find a date for a work party. Can you help me out? And I was like, yeah, I know someone. So I'm like, I tagged her in, I tagged him in. I'm like, you guys go meet, let me know how it goes. And it was that post where, the click-throughs, the engagement, everything was crazy. Like my phone was literally blowing up. with people clicking through, you know, commenting, and then also messaging me saying, hey man, this is awesome, can you help me out? And it was at that point in time I realized, oh, active people actually want to date other active people, and they have a bad experience on dating apps. You know, this is actually a problem that could be solved. And so that's how it all sort of stemmed. And then what I did is I started like to test it and just go, oh, is this actually a thing? Or, you know, let's find out. So to test it, every Friday I'll do what was called Fit Fan Finder Friday. And I'll get someone's permission, do a little bio, do like the flame swipe right on Instagram. And the rules were, obviously, number one, we had permission. But the main rules were, number one, no creeps, no hookups, and absolutely no dick pics. And everyone was super cool about it. Like, you know, no one was dodgy. People would swipe, they'd start conversation, they'd go on dates. And every week, I'd get people messaging me going, hey, can you feature me? Can you feature me? And so we started to build some like hype, I guess, over this minimum viable product, I guess you could call it, as far as a test. And then from there, we built out a prototype version of the app, which was just very, very basic. It was still called Fit Fan Finder. And then that was released and launched at the start of the year. But towards the end of the back year, we did the Fit Fan Finder Festival here in Perth, just down at the beach. And we had like 300 or 400 people rock up for this singles speed dating sort of fitness event where they were doing speed dating boot camps and acro yoga. And so we were able to create a brand in time for this launch, which was Fit Fan Finder. And then from there, we launched the app in Perth. We were testing it, just doing some updates, just seeing if people, if they wanted it, if they used it, you know, if they paid for it. And during that time, we actually onboarded the form and data team from Bumble. Our new developers did the apps for Jamie Oliver, for Kanye West, for Manchester City and Ferrari. And we've just brought on our acquisition and performance marketing team, who are really massive players in that space. And they've worked on Tinder previously. They've worked on Spotify, and are also masters at building online communities. So this little joke on Instagram stories has now blown up into this sort of crazy little thing. And I'm just sitting there going, it's a bizarre experience to be leading such a world-class team.
Mate, that's unreal. We ran a couple of Fit for Loves when I was living in Sydney down at Bondi Beach, like little boot camps of all single people, and a couple of them end up getting married. So I definitely kind of resonate with that. What do you put it down to? For me, it's like-minded values, you know, which is a really important part, I think, of relationships in the studies that I've done anyway. What do you see as the glue to it all?
Yeah, for sure. So from an outside point of view, when I look at my friends, that dating is a really weird, confusing time, right? Like, I know, you know, it's a strange time. You're kind of going into these dates. Is this the one? Like, you know, it's a bizarre time. There's a lot of emotion and a lot of confusion attached. And what I've found with my friends that I've observed from a distance is they'll go through a cycle where an app is the second most preferred way to meet someone in 2020. Still, friends and family is kind of like, you know, I'd like to meet people through that network, but then it's apps, and then everything else is like way far back. So I see my friends, and they've gone through dating, they've used apps, they've met someone, they've gone into this relationship, but then they realize that they're actually not compatible. And then, you know, a few months, a year, whatever that is, they break up and they start that process again. So I think that the compatibility, so active people and understanding that fit and active lifestyle, and why you would want to go to the gym, why you would want to, you know, go do something active on the weekend, why you want to eat a certain way or track your meals, a certain lifestyle that if somebody doesn't get that, your partner doesn't get that, it makes it very hard. And either it's going to have a very difficult time living that lifestyle that you enjoy, or the relationship's just not going to work. So from a fitness standpoint, that's essentially it. And it's such a simple problem to solve that when it came about, I'm like, how is this not being addressed yet? Like, you've got Muzzmatch, which is a dating app for Muslims. You've got JDate, which is a dating app for Jewish people. Like, there's all these sort of niche apps for not just like-minded, but lifestyle choices that work so extreme. And they're not small, they're huge. And they work so well because they cater to a specific market. And that's what we've effectively done, is we've said, hey, there's a problem here to be solved. We want to dedicate our lives in helping fit and active people find right compatible matches in a healthy environment. Because remember, dating apps can also be prone to being, hookup culture or a sleazy vibe. So we're like, how do we create a healthy dating environment for active people?
Mate, it's brilliant. As a health and fitness enthusiast, and similar time to you in the space, actually. I think I was about 16 years before I pulled up stumps 18 months ago. I personally, there's a few non-negotiables for me in the dating space, and one of them would be health and fitness. I just couldn't imagine, who knows, could be proven wrong, but I would say from a values point of view and from a compatibility that I just wouldn't be able to date someone that's not in the health and fitness space, or at least have an interest in it. What do you see as, you talk about the hookup culture, which is really interesting. We could go on for hours about that, but from a kind of the ins and outs of the app, how exactly does it work, and how do you see the kind of compatibility coming together?
For sure. So actually, sorry, can you just reword that question a little bit, just so I make sure that I answer it right?
How does the app work? Is it like, I don't know much about the apps, but they're normally swipe left, swipe right type thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So, predominantly when the apps came out, they were just simply swipe right, swipe left. And so everything came down to this image. It was literally the first picture that you saw, and it's a split-second decision whether you swipe right or you swipe left. So number one, people are swiping literally hundreds at a time, and then they're banking up all of these matches, and then they're not actually spending the time in messages. So then, it's very fast-paced, it's very superficial. Conversations may never start, or if they do, then you get blanked or what they call ghosted down the track. And so we're like, okay, we're in the fitness industry where we're going to be number one prone to be called the superficial, but you would know, and being an active person yourself, although there is that within our industry, the broad part of the fitness community is not actually like that superficial. There's definitely components of it where it's about image, but the broad part is just about being fit and active, and it's quite genuinely awesome people. So we were like, okay, well, how do we get people to spend more time on a profile and actually get to know someone a little bit better to make a more informed decision before they decide to swipe left, or before they decide to swipe right, or yes or no, however you want to look at it. So what we did is we created vertical profiles, which are more in depth. You can find out more about that person. There's more photos to be able to look at. You can drill down, depending on which options you have within the app. You can drill down to find someone that is not only into health and fitness, but is also more closely joined to you for compatibility via nutritional preferences. So whether they're vegan, they're keto, they do flexible dieting, they're paleo, whatever that sort of is. Because I can almost guarantee that if you're vegan, you more than likely want to also match with a vegan or vegetarian, you know what I mean? So we just help aid that compatibility a little bit further. And then training preferences as well. So, fitness is one thing, but then there's quite a bit of a difference between bodybuilding to, Pilates or yoga or, OCR running, obstacle course racing. Like there's all these cultures within it. So we're like, okay, well, we can actually break this down for you guys as far as we possibly need to help you find that compatible match as well. One thing that we found as far as we went through, man, I can't begin to tell you how many coffees I've had with fit single people and who are on dating apps, and it would just be a one-on-one coffee, and I would be like, okay, tell me about your dating life, and just going through a list of questions. And we found out so much about people and what was important for them. And I would say 10 out of 10, someone that is like someone who goes to the gym or they do some kind of fitness, someone being equally active or active and understanding their lifestyle is 10 out of 10 at the top. As we break it down further. So it's like, hey, the next question, does it matter what kind of fitness they do? The first answer was always no, not as long as they're active. And then I'd say, okay, well, what if that person was a runner? And then we would start to get into it a little bit more, and they'll be like, oh, actually, they probably, you start to get a little bit like that. Yeah. So yeah, we looked at it, and there's certain things of importance that people want, and we just want to help them, we just want to help them be able to find that. And the beauty of all this as well is, like, the fitness industry is literally just built in all of these communities. And so we just help bring all of these different communities together at such a high level. And just, again, bringing people back to meeting to be able to date in a healthy way.
Mate, you sold it very well. I know there's a lot of health and fitness people on here who are probably downloading as we speak. So what other things have you found kind of interesting in the dating game? You know, whether it's, you know, guys or girls, or just general kind of patterns over the last 6 to 9 months?
Yeah, for sure. Again, coming back to like dating's a really confusing time, and going through all of these, going through all these interviews really sort of opened up my eyes to dating. Again, I'm married. I've been with my wife for, I'm gonna say 5 years. It might be 6 years, 5 or 6 years. I think we got married on our 4-year anniversary, so it would have just passed 5 years. So we'll go with 5 years. So dating can be quite a confusing time, and the biggest thing that I found is people date bad. The majority of people, and it comes down to the expectations going in. It comes down to jumping in things too early. And I believe that we would like to create education and actually utilize the platform to help empower people to become better at dating themselves, and also to empower them, you know, to use that time, you know, whilst they're single, to also work on themselves, because you can't expect someone to be Mr. Right or Mrs. Right unless you've also done the inner work. Like, it's also a two-way street. So if we can encourage people through their mental health, through their physical health, through their self-awareness, through their self-empowerment, to have that self-respect also going into dating, to then be able to not be fussy, like not fussy or choosy. I don't know if they're the right words, but to be able to be selective in knowing what your non-negotiables are, what you're looking in for with a partner, and to be able to take the time going through the dating process to establish whether you guys are going to actually be able to build a strong foundation before you progress further with things. I mean, it can be like lighting a match into kerosene, where you meet someone for the first time, there's physical attraction, you know, you hook up, stuff goes from there. It's like, there's so much chemistry, it must be love. And then, yeah, 6, 12, 3 years later, whatever that is, you know, you're like, oh, we actually don't have that compatibility. So I think providing the education and empowering people through that process, through content, through experts like Michaela, I think that this will be something that will be able to really provide value to the community and help them, you know, establish better relationships long term.
Mate, chemistry and compatibility are two very different things. And I don't think people realize until the chemistry wears off, you know, after that kind of very lustful period, how different they are. But what do you see as some of the, or even tips that, you know, through Michaela and access to, you know, other experts that you've got, what's some of the advice either that you've been giving, or, you know, in conjunction with other experts that they've been able to provide in the dating game? You know, I guess one core one that you mentioned, you know, which really stems from the app is similar values, you know, obviously in relation to health and fitness. But what else have you been able to kind of identify or see as, you know, important parts of dating?
Yeah, for sure. So if we look at the app side of things to begin with, like, first and foremost, you have to actually invest time, and it's not a lot of time, but you need to invest time in actually getting your profile set up correctly. One thing that I find is that if somebody comes in and they just put one picture and no bio, or they just put something, you know, cute or stupid within the bio, that's literally like your calling card. That's your first impression. Whether you're a guy or girl, that's your first impression that someone's going to see you. So, you know, you want to use photos that represent you well. And I'm not saying use glamour photos, not at all, but photos that represent you well. So whether that's the way you look, the activities that you do, the things that you're into. So then when you do actually meet someone, well, number one, that someone was going to swipe on you because you're their kind of person. But then number two, when you do meet that person, you are actually what you're representing, and vice versa. So you want to invest time to attract the right person for you, to actually put the right things out there. So that's number one. Number two is, don't have like an expectation that the person that you're going to go on a coffee date, or you're going to meet up, or whatever that is, don't go in with the expectation that that is Mr. or Mrs. Right. Like, you know, you need to be going out there to go and meet someone new as a friend, and like, enjoy it. Enjoy the process of meeting someone new. Have like conversation. Like, these things take time. Me and my wife we knew each other in the fitness industry for 12 months. We weren't actually on each other's radars as far as like romantically or dating like whatsoever. And it wasn't until 12 months in, and I'm not sure. Have you ever had Cocoa Whip?
Yeah, coconut ice cream, isn't it?
Yeah. So
yeah.
So I was really into really into Cocoa Whip, and I'm like, hey, you got to come and try Cocoa Whip. So it wasn't even a date; it was just catching up as friends, reps or competitors in the industry, and we went on this. And it wasn't until then, after this 3-hour Cocoa Whip, that it was like, oh, we actually really got along like as friends. And then it was such a slow process over 3 months that it was just these regular catch ups until 3 months down the track. It's like, oh, we can actually hold a conversation. We have similar interests, other laugh that it actually ever went into anything romantic. So even for me personally, it was quite a long process. And I think that removing that expectation that, that has to be the first person, that has to be the one straight off, and just letting these relationships or friendships just blossom and develop. I mean, you're going to know if it's not right, it's cool. Each other can go each other's way. But if you commit yourself too early, then the only thing is, like we say, is that the chemistry can wear off, and then you got to make sure that you have that foundation of compatibility to go forward. For me also, and this is something which is like, it's mistakes that I've seen people make, and if we look at some of the other apps on there, they're known, not in a favorable way, where we go back into that hookup culture, is you don't need to don't need to go back to people's houses. Like, you can have the self-respect and the self-awareness that if that's not what you want to do, then you don't need to be in those situations. Like, you can catch up. Like, I highly recommend catching up in a public place, something which is very light, not even like a full dinner, just, a coffee in a park where it's public, just something lighthearted. And so you can get to know each other. You can get to know each other first in a very, very casual, environment.
Mate, I like that a lot. Being single, I think that's a very good bit of advice. And I think, one of the challenges, and this is interesting from, your app side of things, is, so many of us are confident behind the screen, but socially, many of us can be really challenged when it comes to meeting in person. So liquid courage is, quite good to use that, almost that lower kind of, less intensity around a coffee or, a juice or whatever.
Sorry,
speaking from experience,
Blake, you're just cutting out there for, and I know.
Oh, you there?
There we go. We're back. Yep. We're back on.
I was just saying, from personal experience, if you lock yourself in for dinner, you've locked yourself in for a long haul. And if it's not really going how it was planned, then you find yourself in a bit of a predicament. So, whether it's a coffee, a juice or something like that, you can definitely shorten the time period on it if it's not working out. So I like that approach.
For sure, man. You have to. Don't lock yourself in for dinners. And also, back into the self-awareness. And, for me, again, this is what I would recommend for people. I don't drink alcohol. But even for those who do, I highly, highly recommend, it's not even a suggestion, is don't drink alcohol on your dates, because nothing ever ends well. It's not going to end well. I highly recommend don't go out on your first dates and start drinking alcohol.
Yeah, it'd be good for. I mean, I've always, I say always. While I've been single, I'm of the same belief as you that you only get. I think you only get really anxious about it if there's an expectation or there's a pressure around it, as opposed to thinking of it as meeting someone for the first time and just getting to know them. It just takes a lot of pressure off it. It doesn't have to be more than that if you don't want it to be, and then reassess, after the first time that you hang out. I think that's a brilliant bit of advice.
Yeah, 100%. It doesn't need. I have an unfair advantage that I grew up as a rep, and it was literally my job for most of my life to speak with people and be in weird environments where, you're in sales environments with, so I've had that experience of awkward conversations almost my whole life. And so even when I was single, sitting in front of someone in a dating environment wasn't really that intimidating for me, because it was literally my job to, be in those one-on-one conversation environments. And it's I got to remember also that a lot of guys, maybe in their mid-20s, before their 30s, who haven't had a chance to maybe emotionally develop, might still be quite nervous in those sort of situations. And so the big part for us is, again, it comes down to empowering both men and women to go through this dating process successfully, is the content that we put out. So we have Michaela, who's going to be doing a lot on healthy dating and healthy relationships. And there's also another spokesman, I can say man, a spokesman, who will be looking to come on in the near future, specifically to help men with their confidence throughout the dating process, and just to be better men, just to be better men throughout the process.
Yeah, which is a big thing for us at MoMENtum, is having blokes be better, and we're undoing a lot of generations, so to speak, of some interesting behaviour. So it does take a bit of time. But on that, what do you find? You've obviously done a stack of research now. What are you finding females? If you had some kind of thoughts and recommendations for both guys from the females and girls from the guys, what are some of those recommendations that you might have, come across in terms of do's and don'ts, over the last kind of 6 to 12 months of research?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all is don't lie on your profile. But the biggest pet hate within a dating app is ghosting. Just straight up ghosting, either speaking for a while and then just not replying, or going on a date and then just not responding. And I actually, my friend recently, she was actually on another dating app, and I guess it comes down to expectations, but went in, these high expectations, this guy that she'd been speaking to for ages, they finally met up, these great conversations. And then obviously when they met, it just, probably for him wasn't the chemistry, but he didn't reply back for she sent him a message. He never replied back. It took him about 5 days till he sent a message. And I had to say to her, hey, that's not okay. You can't have someone lead you on for that period of time. So I would say be upfront with your expectations. So what are you actually looking for in a relationship? Or what are you actually looking for out of, being on the app to begin with? And then what you're looking for within a relationship. And if you don't think that person's right for you, then it's okay. It's better to be honest and just say, hey, I don't think that this is, for me, whatever. You can say it in such a nice way. And people would much prefer for you to be honest up front, so then you can move on and they can move on and you can be mutual and, I guess have a associate friendship from there, as opposed to leading someone on or just cutting them off. So I had experience with dating apps for a tiny little bit of time. I've been in a relationship for obviously quite a while, and I was in a long-term relationship for quite a bit before that. So there was 3 dates that I went on when Tinder just started to sort of happen. And I was like, oh, this is a bit bizarre, but, I'll go on there and, I'll give it a shot. And because, coming from that rep background, I just treated it like a sales, catch up sort of thing. And I was like, this is going to be quite interesting just to see how the dynamics of the world worked out. And I never went in there with an expectation to, find love or, go hook up or anything like that. It was literally just to get back in the game of dating and sit in front of someone and be able to have a conversation again. And I actually met 3 people through the fitness world who ended up becoming just networks in business and, just helping each other out in business over time. So you can still create good friendships and good relationships, even if it doesn't become a romantic interest,
Mate, it's key. And again, probably even speaking from my personal experience, in dating, which, has had its interesting moments, is just the fact that, the more pressure you put on it, the more it can kind of be really uncomfortable. And I think that, the thing for so many of us today, and you mentioned kind of the guys in their earlier 20s who are probably, from at least what I'm hearing, struggling a little bit more, is just, communication skills and, the whole ghosting thing is a horrible thing to do to anyone. It creates all types of anxiety and, self-worth things when, you think you had something kind of good and then you go missing. Like, you're better off just being kind of upfront and saying, oh, it wasn't for me or whatever it was, just to help that other person kind of get closure on it. So I do, and pretty kind of firm on thinking that's a really poor performance by anyone who goes. Just like, you got to man up a little bit and have that conversation.
Yeah, I think that it's probably fear of confrontation, although it's not really confrontation, it's resolution, but it's probably fear of confrontation and going, oh, I don't want to hurt that person. So, I just won't respond. And then it gets a bit weird. And then they just keep them on the back burn, so to speak. And until you finally have the confidence to send it, it's better just to be quite upfront. And again, they will respect you, you'll respect each other, and it's okay. You went on a date and it was completely fine. But yeah, it's definitely that, just leading people on, So yeah, definitely step up, be a man.
Yeah. You're just like, that's, yeah. I mean, I'm empathetic towards people for what is actually happening behind the ghosting, but I'm also just like, you just got to step up and have those
You just got to do it. Yeah.
That's the reality.
It's a skill for life as well. Like learning these things, and being able to do that stuff and being able to step up, it actually is a skill for life, whether it's in business, in life, like confrontation resolution, like whatever that is, being able to speak on a camera, like whatever that is, it's these little things that you do and how you approach that in life that actually makes things like this, like, easy to do as well, because you've got over those fears of doing those things, and it just becomes, okay, cool. This is how you hold yourself in life, and this is what I expect out of myself, like the behaviors that I expect out of myself and the values that I expect out of myself.
Well, mate, it's interesting. We've been doing these kind of interviews now for 5 or 6 months, and we alternate weeks between guys and girls. And, with the women's series that we've got, it's called What Women Want. So it's very much kind of obviously targeted towards men, but a real insight into, what women want. And, now 6 or 7 months of research and having those interviews, like, integrity is, pretty much number one across the board. It's a reoccurring theme, from females in terms of what they'd like to see in a male. And, if you say, as a male, if you say, oh, that was a great date, let's catch up soon, and then you go ghosting, then there's a complete lack of, integrity and respect. And, that's not obviously counted amongst the females as a really kind of admirable trait. So definitely something to kind of consider on that way. But
yeah, for sure.
You go.
No, all good. I was just agreeing.
Mate, I'll get you to, as we kind of start to wrap things up, obviously, guys, make sure you check out the app. I'm guessing people on here either on here for, somewhat of interest in personal development and or health and fitness. So, if you are in the dating game, Fitify is definitely going to hit the sweet spot. But mate, 3 thoughts. I know you've been out of the game for a long time, the dating game, but heavily involved in it all the same. 3 kind of thoughts, we've spoken about a lot tonight, but maybe 3 thoughts that people can think about when it kind of comes to dating as to, what might help in the dating game, and make things a little bit smoother for them.
Yeah, for sure. So, 3 thoughts on that. So first of all, I would say use your time as being like appreciate the time that you have as being single, and utilize that time as a chance to work on yourself and do inner work on yourself. Understanding that, it's a 2-way street, that, you're never going to find someone who's perfect. Everyone has their own baggage. Everyone has their own holes, and, you need to understand that there's not going to be that absolutely right person, but you just got to spend time working on yourself. And then, when you get to meet people, is understand, what works with you. So, what's compatible for you, and then you can start to build a persona of what that person will look like. But you'll only get there by actually going on dates and speaking with people and getting to know people in more of a friendship sort of way. So if I was to break that down into 3, I'd say number 1, work on yourself. Number two, go meet people without serious expectations, and just literally go out to meet someone new as a friend. Use it as practice in speaking to somebody new that you don't know. It's a skill. You'll get better at it. You don't need to go there to go and find someone to go have sex. You don't need to go find a husband or a wife. Like, go meet someone. And first of all, find out if you can have a friend. That's like step, I guess, number two. And then from there, just like be respectful 100% of the time. Be respectful within the app. Be respectful when you meet. Always be respectful of that person, because they're literally going through the same time as you, that confusion, their hopes are up. And just understand that that's okay. And if it works out, that's amazing. I hope that you guys have the best life together. And if it doesn't work out, I hope that you guys respect each other, and you're able to say, hey, I went to Coco Whip with that person once and it was a really cool day.
Hey, the Coco Whip, I love it. Yeah, I mean, on that, kind of tying it all in together, I guess, people on this app spend so much time studying and learning about nutrition and health and fitness and how to, get the aesthetics right. And we're probably starting to make a shift, but there's, I think there should be equal measures, if you are spending so much time on your health and fitness, to really spend as much time on understanding yourself, understanding how to kind of, get the most out of yourself, flourish, fulfillment, happiness, and also relationships. Like, it's the biggest investment you're ever going to make. And there's probably not enough, attention around it for a lot of people, like what really constitutes a good relationship, how to make that happen. So just think about where your time and energy is going in terms of balancing that out.
If I was to so if I finish this off and I share a little bit of a story, and I spoke about me and my wife and I guess my relationship a little bit. So as I mentioned, when we first met up, there was no expectations. We weren't really each other's blueprints, I guess, if you like, if you want to put it that way. And it was built over a period of time. And one reason why we work really well is I'm extremely entrepreneurial, extremely creative, but I could live in what would be known as organized chaos. Whereas my wife is extremely detailed, extremely analytical, like OCD. And it works fantastically because our weaks and our strengths balance each other out. And it's only because of that my life has balance, and that I'm able to do the things that I do, and that creativeness inside of me is able to come out in a really good way. So I like to say that, like, I'm the train and she's the truck. She's the one that keeps it all on track. Now, if I had another relationship, I honestly don't think that I would be in the situations that I'm in, because I probably wouldn't have that stability in my life to be able to have that person to guide me through. So it's self-awareness, understanding your strengths and weaknesses, no different to if you're a leader in business and you're building a team, because essentially you're building the team. And it's just understanding, okay, how can I help bring the most out of that person, and how can they help bring the most out of me? And I think that you'll find a good, solid, compatible match, especially if they have a like-minded interest in health and fitness.
Mate, love is a very beautiful thing, and I'm glad you've provided a nice, healthy platform for people to hopefully find it. So congrats again on Fitify, and anyone who wants to find love, it's the best spot to find it. Jump across to the app and download it and start with a true match. Mate, Brando, thanks very much for joining us, and good luck with it all.
Awesome. Thanks, Blake. Catch you, bro. Bye.
Cheers, legend. Bye.